How goes the internet? So today's topic is going to be one that's necessary, especially within the political climate that's happening now. There's a lot of fear with being a woman. There's a lot of fear with continuing education and support for women. So I think that this topic is going to be a good one because there's also a fear for people who identify as Latina or African American or Asian American or Pacific Islander. The fear that exists within every person who identifies as a woman and who identifies with the underrepresented populations within our country. So today's conversation is going to surround women in STEM fields, and more specifically, Latina women in STEM fields, and even more specifically, career counseling to serve this population. So before we get into how you counsel these women in this population, career-wise, especially in higher education, we got to break down some statistics, we got to talk about STEM, we got to talk about the things Latina women face, and then we'll talk about how we serve them. So let's do it. One thing that I found very interesting in doing my research was that 71% of jobs in 2018, which is next year, will require some kind of STEM skills. This is according to the report done in 2015 by the American Association of University Women. Isn't that incredible? 71% of jobs. Yikes. So that's a lot of jobs that are going to require some form of STEM skill. What is STEM? Let's break that down first. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So any of the degrees that students study that fall into those categories is part of STEM. That is something that also is being very developed in high school, middle school. Women are starting to find role models, which is excellent, but we'll get into that later. Let's talk about some statistics for Latina women, because it's already hard enough to be a woman in a predominantly male occupation and degree, but to then also be a Latina, there are some extra added pressures and stressors that come of that. In 2010, a study was done and found that approximately 41% of the Latina community by age 20 and older had not obtained a high school diploma. Another interesting fact is that another study done in 2014 found that there was an increase in enrollment for higher education. That number is actually really exciting. 2 million people who identify as Latino or Latina have enrolled in either community college or a four-year institution. While that's really promising, but only 13% of Latino or Latina people obtain a bachelor's degree. That's kind of shocking information, right? And what are some reasons that this happens? So there's a lot of factors that people face. In the Latina community, when you're growing up, there's a lot of pressure back onto the family unit. It's about what you do to serve the family, whether that's financial, whether that's watching kids that may be their siblings, being in the home, cooking, cleaning, stuff like that. It surrounds the family unit. So when you're taught from a young age that is your job, that's what's important to you, and you get into high school where now you're starting to hear, oh, people are applying for colleges, people are studying things, it puts you in a whirlspin of, wait, is that something that's available to me? Is that something I'm allowed to do? Maybe it's not, maybe it is, but my parents may not speak English, or maybe they don't support it, and maybe they're doing this by themselves. So then they get to either a community college or a four-year institution, and they feel really lost because they don't have those people that have shown them what it is to be a Latin woman in college, but then also a Latin woman in a predominantly male career path in wanting to be in STEM. So there's all that pressure, there's all that stuff going on. Cultures, values, and lifestyle are primary influences on career. Is what is the value from my family? How does that align? How does it not align? What is my culture? What are the roles I'm being placed as daughter, maybe as wife, maybe as mother, maybe as caretaker? Those are all the roles that get factored into that. Another factor about being a Latina woman in higher education is that a lot of them are the first to pursue a college degree in their family. Not only are they facing the life roles and values expected of them, they're also facing being the first in their families to pursue something no one else has pursued, which is, again, a lot of pressure. Another thing that Latina women bring into this space when they're coming into colleges is this idea of the unknown. There may be language barriers. Going back to their cultural expectations and their values and their familiar role, they are expected to bring that into an American education system which doesn't necessarily support that ideal as much. A lot of America is you do it, you fight no matter what, break down barriers, go for it. Which, yes, that exists in the Latina community, but there is, because the family is at the center of who they are, to just throw that away is not something that's really an option, or might be really hard for some people to do. So as a career counselor, when you're talking to these women and you say, you know what, just do it, who cares, just live your life, it's your life. Well, that can be a really hard conversation. So another experience, another factor that may be in why Latino women maybe are not pursuing these STEM fields, or maybe why they are afraid to, or why the graduation rate is so low, is because there is high poverty level and a limited workplace opportunity that they feel that they won't have from accessing higher education. The idea that once I'm going to spend all this money and all this time pursuing a degree, and that once I graduate, people may not even still hire me purely because I'm a woman and I'm Latina, kind of turns people away from doing it. There is a sense of, there is a self-perception issue. So there's poor self-perception, poor self-esteem, a decrease of personal attractiveness compared to those who are lighter skinned. We live in a society now that embraces a lot more diversity. However, there's still quite a bit of communities in this country and quite a bit of people in leadership that downgrade people who have a darker complexion. While we don't want to base everything on personal attractiveness, if your self-esteem and your value of yourself and just looking at yourself is low, why then would you want to pursue something when people are just going to keep tearing you down and ruining that self-esteem? So that's another factor to keep in mind when talking to this population of students that's coming in. With hearing all of that, it then does seem like there is not a lot of hope in being a Latina woman going into higher education. I think it sounds really terrifying, and maybe makes you think, why then should I even pursue this? When we look at more statistics career-wise, women make up about 26% of computing professions in 2013. And in engineering, women are even less represented, with only being 12% to make up working engineers in 2013. Scary statistic, am I right? Another statistic, which can seem really down, is out of the 11,702 doctoral degrees awarded in 2013, only 74 were female. Only 74. Again, someone might look at that and think, what is even the point? Why would I want to be in A, college, and then B, in a field that really, really puts me down? Well, I'll tell you, to be in higher education and to be in the STEM fields for a woman has to do with this idea of survival, relatedness, and self-determination, which are all things very valuable in the Latina community. And if you relate that into being in higher education, there are a lot of similarities. So the conversation then becomes, how do you gear someone's mind to also see that? Another thing that we're seeing in education, in higher education, is that students are wanting to go to community colleges where there's open enrollment, affordable tuition, flexible scheduling, because a lot of people are working. Small class sizes, there's childcare, which is huge. In America, there's not a lot of that provided, and so when an institution is meeting the student halfway, or meeting them at a certain point to say, hey, we will help you because we care about you, that's going to really make people want to do and pursue education. Meeting them halfway. What does that mean? How do I, as a counselor, how do I relate to them? Well, I'll tell you. The counselor in higher education is viewed as a change agent. In counseling students, and especially students within this community, it's about connecting. It's about sitting down and hearing their story, establishing a foundation. From there, building on to what fears do you have? What stressors do you have? Really establishing that relationship is going to allow them to trust you as a counselor. And then from there, you can help mold the conversations into actualizing some of the dreams they may have. You can be that person to say, you should pursue this degree. I think that you would benefit from it. These are the traits I've seen. And when you operate from understanding them in a place of knowing them, they're going to be more likely to hear what you have to say and be receptive to that. That also, I think, what we've seen starts with going into middle schools and high schools. Being someone who's willing to go out there before they even get into the college community is educating and relating and showing examples of women who are highly successful in these fields. That could be part of your job. If you are someone who is a career counselor, or maybe just passionate about counseling students and guiding them into higher education to then pursue a career in a STEM field, This would be something that's really beneficial because you're connecting with them at a young age. You're connecting with their parents, with teachers and administrators at the schools. So then it's a whole team, a whole unit of people backing a student, and they don't feel so alone in this process. Another hugely, hugely important thing about being a counselor is understanding how the family and culture plays a piece into their experience and into their pursuit for education, just really into their experience. It's even in language. When someone says, I was talking to my parents and they weren't really supportive of me wanting to pursue an engineering degree. You saying, forget them, that's whatever, it's your life, it's your degree, do with it what you want, you have the power. Well, that's true, and they can pursue anything they want to pursue, and there is that individual and self-authorship and autonomy. I'm supporting you, and I'm understanding that your experience involves more than just you. Another thing that is super critical to do is have other Latina women come and talk to people. You're not always going to have the answers, and that's okay. You may not be able to operate from having a Latina or Latino experience. You may not know what it's like to come from a home where the family is such a huge part of your life. So find people who do relate to that and have them connect, have them be mentors, have them express what their experiences have been like and how that's similar and how it's still possible to pursue your interests even with all the stuff you feel might hold you back from it. And maybe that's connecting them with another student on campus. Maybe if they're an undergrad student, maybe a student pursuing their master's in a STEM field or even their doctorate in a STEM field. Have them connect with faculty that also identify as Latina and who can have a conversation with them. Bring people in. And also an important thing is connecting with parents and connecting with family. If you're not someone who speaks Spanish, that's okay. I'm Latina and I don't speak Spanish. That means that then I can maybe connect them to someone who does. And we'll also have good conversation with parents and speak to them on a one-on-one level that frankly doesn't happen a lot in America. Another hugely important thing with going back to those mentors is again, displaying the women who are successful in those fields. So with women in STEM especially, there's Marie Curie, who dealt with radioactivity. There's Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, who were all a part of NASA getting a man up into space. Go watch Hidden Figures, by the way, because that's their story and it's incredible. Find those women who they can relate to, who they can see are successful, and who were passionate and didn't give up who they were family-wise and life role-wise, just for education. There can be a blend, and it's a good blend. So, that was a lot. At the core, when you're serving this population of students, when you're counseling this population of students, remember these things. Remember that it's about building relationships. First and foremost, lay a foundation. Make sure that you're hearing what they have to say and not just putting your biases in what you think they need to experience. Number two, the family is incredibly important. And even not necessarily biological family, the community. Number three, many of these students are first-generation students where this is their first time in a college environment. So don't expect them to just know everything. Have a conversation with them. Find other people they can put in their tool belt so that they have resources on campus. Number four, they may be coming from low socioeconomic backgrounds where there's a lot of pressure to financially support the family. And of course we want to retain our students on campus. So let's find ways for them to do both. Connect, connect, connect. That is probably at the core of what it means to serve this population. Number five, show them role models. Show them actual people who are successful in this field. Connect them with other students, connect them with faculty, connect them with other counselors, have them get involved in clubs. That's all going to propel them to be changers in STEM fields. Yeah, what are our takeaways? Education is kind of scary right now in this political climate, and women are scared. But I think instead of using fear to tell us we can't, we should use fear to drive our reasons why. And not take it as fear, but as a passion and a determination to continue our education and fight standards that may be placed on us by legislation, by politics, by even other people within our own gender of being women, and even men. You fight. Fight isn't always quick and easy. Sometimes it takes a long time. But when we can be supportive of our students and when we can show them that we're not giving up on them, they won't give up on themselves. This is just the beginning, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time where we talk about more things.